Hi, and welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I'm Adam JD Martin, your host, and tonight I'm back at home. And we're going to be talking about some properties here on the MLS that actually have the keyword in it of vendor takeback. And I know you guys know what a vendor takeback is, but I'll take a real quick second to explain. A vendor takeback is when you actually ask your seller to hold some of the financing for you. A bunch of ways you can do this. There's really no standard, and there's really no there's no like rigid rule book or handbook like your bank might have. And that's one of the biggest advantages of getting a vendor takeback is that you don't have to follow the same rules as the bank. So you can ask for a vendor takeback and not have great credit, or you can ask for a vendor takeback and have a high utilization on the credit that you already have. You can also ask for a vendor takeback for any loan to value. You could go 100% loan to value. I'm sure you could actually even get more than that somehow. You could ask for 10%, 5%, 95, 100. And I've kind of negotiated everything in between, right? Like I've done all the way from like a 10% to 20%, all the way up to, well, the best I ever got was 96%. So I've never gotten 100%. But 96% is pretty damn close. And then what you can do with the vendor takeback in a lot of cases as well is borrow behind the actual mortgage that you get from them. So you could go and secure a first at your bank and then ask for a second, or you could go and get a second mortgage lined up, from them as part of your renovation fund. So it's really a versatile tool that allows you to take advantage of the seller's equity, and in the same breath, it actually allows you to give them a value proposition as well of giving them the additional interest that they'll earn. So typically the way that this works is it looks exactly like how the bank does the loan, except for the fact that you could kind of make whatever rules around the loan that you want. So for example, this building that I'm in, the vendor takeback was really big. It was like 80% VTB at 5%, but the payments are only interest only. And so I pay a really reduced amount of payment to actually hold this building in the long term while I was getting it turned over. So this loan's for 3 years. So 80% at 5% interest only payments, which makes the payment actually a lot lower. And yes, you're not paying down your principal while you do that, but it really helps to smooth out cash flow if you're doing renovations like I did. So if you're planning on turning over units, this is a fantastic strategy so that you don't have to go to the bank and try and qualify this building at the current value that it's at when the rents are low or when the property itself is in disrepair. And that's another huge bonus to using a vendor takeback is you can use it on any level of property or any quality of property. So as long as your seller has some faith in the building and you as the investor, you will be able to actually take that equity that they have and bet it against the property that they're selling you. And so the pitch works really well too, because you're like, hey, if you actually believe in this property, if you believe it's a good piece of property and you're selling for whatever personal motivation it is, but it's not the building itself, then trust me to make it more valuable by adding these simple improvements. And of course, we always want to show them the strategic improvements that we're going to be doing, which are the bathrooms, right? Kitchen, landscaping, lighting, paint, and flooring. Those are kind of the big ones that we like to focus on that add the most value. And so when I'm pitching a vendor takeback, I'm generally talking about the fact that like the building is in the worst situation it will ever be right now, because as soon as I replace the cabinets, as soon as I replace the flooring, as soon as I paint the place, as soon as I change out the lighting, and as soon as I get some new landscaping outside, the value of the building has just gone up a lot. And so your actual security in loaning me your equity it's pretty secure, right? And so if people find it more risky, that's where you pull that toggle on the actual interest rate. So if they find it risky, great, pull the lever on interest. And whether that's because maybe they're offering you a second position mortgage, which by the way just means that like the bank would get paid first, or whoever's holding the financing on the first gets paid first. So if they're seeing risk, pull the interest lever. If they're not seeing risk, you can still keep the interest lever pulled if it's in your best interest, but you could also just offer to like take on more, right? So you could ask for more loan to value. If they don't think that there's risk in the market, or if they have a lot of confidence in the building, feel free to ask for the moon. Like that's what I always do. I always ask for 100%, right? And so only being stupid enough to ask for 100% is how I got 96%. right? And then there's another toggle that you can pull on here as well, and that's the term itself. So most people, they have a plan when they're going to sell a building. Most people don't just wake up and decide to sell the largest asset that they've got, um, just like on a whim, right? So what you have to understand about when you're asking for this vendor take back is what are the actual wants, needs, and goals of the person that you're asking for it from. So like you need to understand like when they sell this property, what are they going to do with the money? And a lot of people, it's kind of surprising to me, but I've seen it a lot where people, they have a plan for like a really small portion of the proceeds. So they might say something like, "Well, we're going to take a trip," or we had plans to pay for our daughter's college, or we had plans to buy a certain vehicle or something like that. And typically that's going to be a relatively small portion of the actual proceeds from a sale. And so what you always have to ask yourself is like, well, what are you doing with the rest of it? And they might not tell you, but it's worthwhile to ask, because when I asked and when I've pushed that button, I often get like really honest answers. They're like, well, we honestly don't really know. And like maybe we're gonna park it in some GICs till we figure something out, or we were just gonna put it in savings or maybe get some mutual funds. And that's when I typically just say, like, okay, like I fully understand what you're trying to do, and you're essentially de-risking or deleveraging, and that's fantastic. And what I'd like to offer you today is a chance to secure that money against an asset that you already understand, right? Because mutual funds are kind of scary. You have no idea what the hell's going on with those. And GICs, like they have really low rates of return, and it's kind of like your money's locked up. So, like, what I like to ask and what I like to understand is like, what would it look like if I was able to pay you more than what those should be able to pay you with even greater security? And that's kind of the premise of the vendor take back ask. It's like, if you're not doing anything with this capital, I'd love to put it to work for you where I can actually afford to either pay you more on the purchase price or pay you a good interest rate so that you're actually earning money off of the money that you otherwise would just be sitting on. Because we all know that it doesn't make you a lot of money just sitting in the bank. Like, I mean, the bank's giving like 1% or something. It's insane. And then inflation's going to be like 6%. So you're like, you're totally losing money there. And I'm not saying even that mortgage loans are the best way to make money, but it's certainly better than having money sitting around. So I think that's a really good point. And quite often I'll leverage the fact too that like I'm young and hungry and trying to like add to the portfolio and really trying to like get the neighborhood up. And a lot of people just resonate with that too. They're like, yeah, like we weren't really going to do anything with it. And to be honest, if it's in our hands, we'll probably just blow it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the same. And the only difference is that like this for me is the business. And so I'd like to focus that capital onto a business strategy and actually go and deploy it. And a lot of people just like that idea. I mean, they like the idea that the money's going to go to work for them. They like the idea that somebody young and hungry, or, you know, typically I'm always the youngest person in the room. So they'll be like, okay, like some young, hungry guy wants to go and do something with this. And people get something out of that. So it's always worth asking. And you really can't lose. And that's the other thing is I like to say is like, you know, there's nothing really to be lost in exploring the option. So like let's just talk about what it would look like, whether that's in terms of the actual term of the loan, so how long you get to keep the money, the amortization, because that's another way to smooth out the payment but be able to pay more. Or you could pull on the interest rate itself. And what I find is like this is like the same thing as when people go in and they start negotiating on price first. I don't love to do that because everybody has a price in their mind. Like that's the thing that you tell the neighbors. That's the thing that you go back and tell your family and coworkers and whatever. Oh, I got X price, right? I got $1 million. And so you don't really want to screw around with price too much. And in the same way, when you're asking for loans or when you're asking for a vendor take back, you don't really want to screw around with the interest rate. I like to keep the interest rate at whatever their target is, and just understand that like when they suggest a target rate, you should aim to hold that rate, whatever it is. So like if they say 8% or 10% or, you know, fuck 15%, it doesn't really matter. um, if you pull on the other toggles. And when I say it doesn't really matter, I mean that from the perspective of like what your actual goals are. So if you have a goal of like cash flow, for example, then I would suggest you keep the high rate and then pull on the amortization toggle, right? Or price. You could go with price, but again, that's a double header now. You don't really want to go down on price and down on rate. Maybe pick one of those if you have to. But honestly, like dicking around with amortization is way better, or term, right? So if like you get sort of a maybe kind of a rough loan, but it's on a property where you otherwise wouldn't be able to get traditional financing anyways, I'm always going to be happy to pay a higher rate. And then I can even pay a premium on the actual purchase price if I'm able to extend the term. And so I've done that too. Like on that deal where I got 96% loan to value, I also had a 13-year term. And essentially what my bet was on that was like, I'm willing to like really overpay you a lot today, as long as I'm not losing money monthly on the actual cash flow part of it, as part of a bet, as part of a speculation that the market itself is going to be worth more in 13 years. That's a bet that you cannot lose, right? That's a bet that literally you can't lose on. And that's in a major city, right? That was in London. So like that's the best bet ever. And the reason that the guy wanted to actually take it is because he had no idea what to do with his money in the meantime, and he was going to blow it. He had a couple of issues, and he figured if it was in his hands, he would absolutely blow it. Right. So for 13 years, he essentially locked in a payment that would guarantee him money every month, $1,250 every single month for 13 years. Right. And that's what he wanted. And then a lump sum payment of the actual money at the end, because all of that was interest only, or sorry, that one wasn't interest only. So there's a lump sum, but it was getting smaller, right? And so at the end there was like a big payout. Um, and I really like that idea because it allows you to satisfy your seller's needs and goals. It allows you to give them more, and it allows you to be like maximum flexible. And I think that's really what this comes down to, is it's a strategy that gives you more agility and more mobility in a deal. And I think that that actually is like one of the real secrets to being better than the competition on the market, is like if you can find a way to give them more and and satisfy like their original goal. Like if you can give them more than your competition, you're in the win, right? Like you're just simply getting further ahead than anyone else. And so part of that is understanding the tools. And then the other thing is just actually asking, because I know so many people that watch the channel, or they've listened to me on stage or whatever, or we talk in person at a meetup, and then I'll ask them, I'll be like, well, how many offers have you made where you ask for a vendor take back? And like more often than not, people are like, "Oh, I haven't," or like I've done one or two or whatever. I'm like, "Well, how many offers have you made in general?" And like, first of all, that's the real problem, right? Is people don't make enough offers to like actually get great deals. But when they're like, "Well, I've made like 100 offers," and then they'll tell me something like, "I've put, three of them I asked for a vendor take back," and I'm like, "That's insane," because that you just missed 98 chances, right, at getting either a better deal or better terms, right? And so I think it's so important to remember that like asking is literally 80% of sales, right? Sales is like not this big scary thing. It's like literally having the balls to ask somebody to transact with you, and then being open to making it work, right? So like how can we make this work? There's price and there's terms. Somewhere inside here there's a deal that both of us would do, and it's up to us to find out what that looks like, right? And a vendor takeback's a great tool to get you into more deals. Pete's asking here, thoughts on capital gains inclusion rate. Pete, I literally don't even know what that means. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I literally don't know what that means. Capital, I'm going to look this up. Inclusion rate. All right, let's look this up. So I'm just going to pull up my screen here, and I've got, oh, this is like news. Pete's trying to give us news. I like that. I like that for Pete. Pete, pull this screen up. Did we lose Pete? We might have lost Pete. Here we go. We got Pete back. Okay, so Pete's actually just put in the comments here because he's plugged in, which I love about Pete. Hold on. How do I zoom on this thing? Here, so you guys can see this. Pete's saying there's news. And so we'll read the news real quick. And I might not have anything on this just because I would need to do some homework on what this really means. But there's a video here and an article from Bloomberg that says Ottawa moves to raise inclusion rate on capital gains taxes in 2024. Well, I'm glad that we're getting more taxes, because that's actually what this country needed, and what the entrepreneurs that make the goddamn thing go around have been asking for is more tax. Please tax us more. So, Pete, I think I already know where I'm going to stand on this, and it's going to be biased as hell, and I'm going to be upset, right? So, let's talk about this. Let's look. Federal government announced the intention to raise the inclusion rate on capital gains tax for corporations and individuals earning beyond a certain threshold. Well, what's the threshold? It's expected to generate 21.9 billion so that we can fight some other war in Ukraine or something, or Israel. So that's fantastic. At least that's well funded. Um, okay, so inclusion rate is getting raised on people that are making more than 250. What does this really mean? Around 12% would be subject to the higher inclusion rate, while around 0.13% of Canadian. Okay, so they're basically just saying tax the rich. I mean, I don't know. Like, here's the thing: is tax fair? And that's like a real interesting philosophical question that I don't think is as cut and dry as I would like to make it out to be in my mind when I'm like, I get angry to see taxes rising. And it's not a simple story, right? Because the real question is like, what does the tax money get you? And like who actually is going to benefit from this, right? So when I think about it, I'm thinking like, I think that people benefit from the social services that we have, right? Including things like, you know, um, you can get like low income housing, you can get like ODSP. There's like all sorts of welfare programs that we have. There's all sorts of like things related to healthcare, although I really dislike our healthcare system. But like, truthfully, if you did like really need healthcare, you can just walk into a hospital and shit will get fixed. That's pretty special. Now, on the other hand, we print an incredible amount of money and ship it around the world for really divisive purposes, like wars and manufacturing weapon systems and all sorts of things. And I am in the army, so I can't really get all crazy about that and then like be a super hypocrite about it. But I'm telling you that taxing the people that are actually productive is probably not the answer. So what this is saying is like if you make over 250 um as an individual, I guess, or a corp, you're basically getting your tax raised by like a lot, right? 12%, that's a lot. Or sorry, it was 12% of Canadians. Either way, the only thing that it happens when you do something like this is you reduce the capacity and the interest of entrepreneurs and corporations to do business where you are, right? That's all this does. Like if it's basic economics, there's a market price, right? There's an equilibrium price. There's like where things should be when markets are running properly, and then everything you ever do to influence that price, whether it be a tariff, a tax, a price control, any of those things will influence where that price point sits, and it will absolutely change the calculus that companies and entrepreneurs make when they decide where to do business. And that doesn't mean all the businesses will run away. It just means that you will lose opportunity. And on a long enough time horizon, that type of opportunity cost, I think, greatly outweighs the benefits we get as part of a centralized, inefficient, disgustingly horribly run system, right? So like when the government runs a program, they just fuck the whole thing up. And I know this because none of my companies could have ever lived a single day with the type of inefficiency that I've seen our government use and do and implement. It's disgusting. And so giving them more money and taking it away from the most productive sections, right? Because like how much money you have or make is not, it's really only good as like a barometer for your productivity. And so to say that everybody in this top level of productivity is the one that's going to be punished here, that doesn't seem great if you want more top producers in your country. Right. So like what do you want? Do you want top producers or do you want a welfare state? And it's like, well, I can see what the government wants, right? When they do things like this. So, Pete, thanks for bringing that to our attention. But we should get back to real estate. And like maybe we can even tie this into real estate. The thing is, guys, like these large companies will not come to countries that are dicking around on massive taxes. That's why. That is literally why you find Tesla going to like Texas, right? Or like all like there's so many companies that will operate specifically in geographic regions that tax them in favorable ways so that they can pay to have the product that everybody is demanding from them, whether that be in labor savings, tax savings, whatever, like material cost savings, like the cost of goods sold itself. Like it's just anytime you dick around with the price, you are screwing up other things. And so, like, as that relates to real estate, like, great. What would it be like if we just didn't get another major employer in Windsor or Sarnia, in London, in Hamilton, in Kitchener, right, in Calgary, in Edmonton, right? Like it's just so easy to be like, well, we would have gone there, but we can't afford to because of the taxes, so we won't. And it's like, great. Well, all that did is it stifled all the house pricing. There's way less GDP now, right? And like everybody works less because why would you? There's no good reason to go to work if the government's going to take more of your money. It just doesn't make any sense. And then take one drive on a Canadian road and you can see that the tax dollars have not gone to the things that you regularly enjoy on a daily basis. They just haven't, right? So, I can get pissed about that, but we shouldn't. We should be thinking about vendor takebacks because that's what we're doing today. So, getting back on track with the MLS, what I like to do here. So, if you come to realtor.ca, this is where you land, and you can see like I've looked at these or whatever. These are listings we covered. We talked about them last week when we're looking at properties that were under 300,000. So you can go back and listen to that if you missed it. But what I like to do is I like to go here and just hit that search button there and then get into the actual like sort of back end here. And then I like to go to filters. This thing still thinks I'm in the States. So we'll just come back to where I am. Oh, I don't live in Boston. Here we go. Oh, if I could just remember where I live would be good. So what I like to do here is I will come into keywords and you can play around with a lot of these tools, right? So like it's pretty useful if you know you're looking for a fourplex. Like it's actually really useful to just filter fourplexes. Now there's inherent risk here because realtors are not the brightest bunch, and so like a lot of the time they'll just mislabel shit, and that doesn't help you at all. But that is a good way to find things like that if it's very specific. Like say you're buying one of your first properties that you're looking specifically for a duplex. This is a great way to like really narrow down the results so that you waste less time, and wasting less time is really important. But for now, we're going to focus on the vendor takeback, which means we can look at any building type. We'll look at any type of stories, any beds and baths, really any price even. And from there, we can narrow it down. But first, I like to put in VTB. Okay. Put it in, hit enter so that it doesn't screw up the search. Then I like to go vendor takeback because again, people use different language, right? And so when we're thinking about this, like how do we properly filter things? You're going back to research methods or stats class, if any of you guys went to school. And so we got vendor takeback. We've also got people like to refer to it as seller financing. And then what else can we do? We could put creative financing, right? That'd be another one. That's a term a lot of investors will use. It's not really like a professional term, but somebody might use that in a listing. So we got vendor takeback, VTB, seller financing. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit search and you'll actually see that just in my little window here of like kind of, I don't know, I'd call this like the Barrie area, right? This is like Barrie, Wasaga Beach, Collingwood. There's 43 listings that reference vendor takeback. So like how amazing is that? And you can see like one of them's in Innisfil. That's pretty cool. There's a big house, right? So we're getting everything. We've got a just under $900,000 house here with like a 2-car garage, etc. And then we've got this $2.6 million let's just call it a mansion in Springwater. That's pretty cool. So you can see like I think there's some weird conceptions about what a vendor takeback is or when you can ask for it or who would offer it. And I think a lot of people they assume that like it's only available on commercial properties or it's only available in really specific circumstances. But you can see like this is a brand new house here for 768. And they're offering one on there. this is a like a really nice mansion. They're offering one. This is a big piece of land, like blank land, development land potentially, or farmland. This is like, what I would consider like kind of an average just house, right? So you can see here, like in this demonstration alone, there's a lot of different ways to execute a vendor take back. So this is sorting by newest. I don't really ever like to do that unless I know what market I'm looking at, but let's just go lowest and we'll see a bunch of these $1 things. I like to avoid those. Like, I don't really care about that. So, big lot in Springwater for 600. And it looks like basically the first house we'll get to is that 767. Yeah, there it is. So let's open that up and just see what's going on. So this looks like a relatively new house, if not brand new. Sutton selling it. Beautiful. Nice floors, nice kitchen. Carpet on the stairs. Yeah, it's not brand new, right? This has been lived in. But I mean, it's basically a new house. So what does this say? Gorgeous detached house in Wasaga Beach on a premium lot built by Elm Development, situated in the heart of Georgian Sand, Wasaga Beach. Blah, 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 blah. And let's try and find this VTB. So here it is. Here's where it says, right? So what's interesting when you use that filter, and you can use it for any term. We just picked vendor take back tonight because it's a fun topic. But this is really exciting because you can come in here and without having to click on hundreds of listings, we were able to just pull this one out of the freaking out of the haystack, and it searched the term VTB. And so you can see the reason why I listed all those different search terms too is because this just says VTB. It doesn't say vendor takeback. It doesn't say seller financing. It doesn't say any of that shit. It just says VTB. So that's when you're using these filters, you got to actually like think about this a little bit because not everybody's going to use the same language as you, right? Not everybody's going to really understand. So Port City Investments, you just got here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So what I like to do when I come to realtor.ca, I jump on the homepage here. I hit the search button. And then why is this bringing me to Washington? Like, I'm nowhere near Washington, guys. I'm so far away from Washington. You hit the search bar, you panic about where your computer thinks it is, and then you kind of figure out where you actually are. I'm over here. So what I like to do is I'll go to this filter button, and then we put in search terms here. And the best way to do it is to include multiple terms because not everybody's using the same language, right? And we'll put seller financing. Now, this assumes you can spell, but, we're kind of hoping. And so there we go. We just went from 7,500 listings down to 90, right? And so all we're doing here is we're trying to save time. And if we really want, what we can do too, what we can do is we can say like, you know what? I don't like those $1 listings are always kind of just stupid. So like, let's just say like I'm serious. I'm looking for a house. Like I really want a nice house. Or for example, I'm looking for a rental, right? I'm looking for a rental property. So I want a fourplex. Okay. Let's look at what fourplexes are available. You can see that there are none. Okay. Well, we were hoping for a fourplex, but maybe we'd settle for a triplex. Well, there's one. That's the good news. Okay. Shit. I just went from 7,400 listings down to one, right? And so what do? We go look at it. Interesting build. Looks kind of new, actually. We got floor plans. Obviously, it's been super updated, right? It's either new or near new. Nice heat exchanging unit. I love those. Okay. Nice. Very nice renos here. Very nice building. So we look at this building, right? And now we know right away. Thank you, Shannon, for creating this listing for us. No, I don't need to go onto your page. Just saying thank you. So Shannon here made the listing and then boom, right there. possible vendor take back available per seller, right? And so this is really interesting because like now you have an idea that like, okay, well, like, maybe it will work at a certain price point or a certain um term on a loan or certain amount of interest rate, like whatever, right? And in climates like this, where the banks are kind of wishy washy on what rates they want to give you, and if those will change as variables, or if they won't qualify you for as much these days, like this is a great option to come in and ask for a second or come and ask for a big first if that's what you need, right? Previously, a duplex converted to a triplex, final approval given, blah, blah, blah. Short term tenant, and there's one vacant unit. So, like, maybe that's it. Like, you're like, oh shit, I can actually house hack this. And as long as I get a VTB, I can make it work. And what do? We just took like literally hours of searching on MLS, and we turned it into one listing out of 7,400. Like, that's insane. And so it's useful again to like kind of scroll around on this, because if you're really specific or you're really narrow in your search, this allows you to search entire cities really quick. So like say you wanted to look at maybe you're kind of torn between London, Sarnia, and Chatham. Well, now you can literally search all of those really quickly and spend 5 minutes to figure out that, oh shit, there's only one listing and it's on Horton Street in London. Um, and we always talk smack here about Hamilton Road. Horton's the same thing. It's literally the same road. So it's just as terrible. But if we got a vendor take back, maybe we're starting to see some potential on it, right? And that's the whole point of this, is like if you have a tool and you know how to use it, all of a sudden you can gain a competitive advantage over people, because not everybody's going to look at this listing. Like when they see the picture or they see the price point, they might not click on it. And that's the other point here too, is like we're looking specifically at this listing from Ken right now because in the description somewhere it says VTB or it says vendor take back mortgage. And this is a perfect illustration of why you have to include those multiple terms, because all the other ones just said VTB. They didn't actually use these words. And so where Ken made a mistake here is he wrote it in, but he didn't use the term VTB, right? Which is clearly the most common way to present this. And that's why with these filters, you got to use both. You got to use as many variations of these as you can, right? So that's really important to understand. And like, again, we would not have clicked on this. Like today on this stream, we were never going to look at this listing, right? Because I don't love Horton Street, and 800,000 is a lot. But if it's 800,000 for a freaking triplex and they're offering a vendor take back mortgage with 30% down. Oh, so here's the thing too. He even included the terms, kind of, right? So the cap rate right now is 7.1 on this, which is actually pretty good. And then you've got this VTB available with 30% down, which what does that mean for you guys, right? So VTB, as long as you put 30% down, we got 795 times 0.3. So if you had 238 grand or 240 grand after closing, you can close this property, right? Without going to the bank, without having to talk to RBC about whether or not this like building is going to be acceptable for their lending standards. And like, again, when you go and you look at some of these properties, like some of them are not going to be acceptable to the bank, right? This one looks pretty good. It actually looks in pretty good shape, which is interesting because the exterior looks terrible, right? So like sometimes the bank's just going to see this and be like, no, like we're not doing that. And so what you do have to be careful about is appraisals, right? When you're going to the bank. And people found this out during COVID. It was like, holy shit, the price is up 30%. But the appraiser's like, yeah, like, I don't know if we can value it like that. And the bank was like, I don't know if we should, right? But if this guy's going to offer you 30 to buy it, so he'll offer you 70% loan to value as long as you have the 30, then you don't need to worry about that appraisal right now. You need to worry about it later when you need to go sell the property, or if you need to refinance it or something like that, because the vendor take back is always going to come to an end, right? How long's the term? And that's the thing. Term is way more important in my eyes than anything else, because it's like you can pay a high rate for a little amount of time, or you can pay a higher price as long as you have the term for a longer time, justifying your ability to actually add value to the property, right? These are all little considerations. So Port City Investments said, so you could do vendor take back for 25% and essentially get into the deal with none of your money. Yes. Some banks will stipulate that you cannot. Some banks will say that you can or have a second mortgage behind them. And so that's all going to be in your mortgage terms. But again, if you're working with a good mortgage agent, right? Like we've got Finley on here all the time for Finance Fridays and stuff like that. You know, there's the Kyle Fords of the world. Like these guys are going to be able to actually give you advice that you need to get the right lender if you're going to go get it first. But like in this specific listing, the whole point of this one is that he's offering the first. So what he actually needs is the 240 grand, right? So as long as he gets the 240 grand, you can get the property. And so like, how do you come up with that 240? It doesn't matter. That's the thing too, right? So with that, with him offering a big first, you could go privately borrow the 240. You could go leverage it your own house for a line of credit or whatever to get that cash. Like when a seller is offering financing, they're not going to go through the same type of um they're just not doing the work that the bank is, right? Like they're not fin tracking you. They're not trying to figure out where the hell the money came from. They're not trying to figure out the source. They're not going to figure out if it's a gift or it's from a friend or you borrowed it from your family members. Like this is all stuff that the banks are regulated to do, not seller financing, right? And so that's actually a pretty interesting deal. And I'll just go back here to the map and we'll play around a little bit more to show you some other options here. So if we go back, so we were just looking at triplexes, right? Let's actually see if there's any fourplexes anywhere because I love fourplexes. Fourplex, in my opinion, is the best property. Like really, unless you get like big stuff, but like a fourplex is fantastic because 4 or 6, maybe 6 is actually the best because like people don't pay. Like you can afford for like 1 or 2 units even to not pay, and then you should be good if you bought right. So let's look at this Division Street. Oh, we've talked about this before. Um, I feel like we talked about this with maybe with Kayla. I don't know. But anyways, we got a fourplex here. Sellers willing to consider a vendor takeback. Great opportunity for investors to purchase what was previously known as the Grand Trunk Railway Hotel. Well, that's fun. You could have a hotel. See, that's the thing. You could get into all sorts of fun stuff. Now, 900 grand, 995 for a fourplex. I don't know about that, but it is very pure. It's very pretty. Might be able to get some really nice rents here. That seems expensive, though. I'm going to run away from that. What's this? $1 million. Looks fun. Massive opportunity. Massive. Thank you, Jerry. We got a massive opportunity to sever this double lot legal fourplex into 2 duplexes. Why would I want to do that? Why actually would I want to do that? I don't think I like that. I don't think I want to. Sorry, Jerry. Not doing that today. But this is the thing, right? Like when you filter like this, you just gained all your time back. So you can dick around on whatever you want and you don't have to feel bad about it because like you're really narrowing your search down. And that just allows you to be super decisive because like you can look and seriously consider anything that's going on in that market. So VTB, okay, so let's just go back to any, right? And we'll see how many we got in London. Actually, London's really light. London's only got 2, but like look at that. 8.8 million for some big development property. I'm actually surprised London doesn't have more. Brantford, I can see for sure. Let's see what Brantford's got for us. We're back here on this one too. What is this? So legal fourplex, 2 units, fully renovated, good tenants. That's a good price, 200K a unit. NOI is 48.5. Projected NOI is 76. Units 1 and 2 are month to month. Unit 3 and 4 are on leases. Parking for 3 vehicles. Recent updates include, big renovation in units. Whatever, VTB possible, right? VTB possible. So that when people say things like VTB possible, I start thinking right away they just want to give like a small second, which is fine too, right? Like that can help you if you needed renovation funds or if you needed cash to help out with something else. Pretty nice little building though. Yeah. So like here's where them offering like a second or something like that would be useful because then you've got the cash to actually address things like these cabinets. Also, when we're looking through photos, right, we can't really smell the picture. But if you look close enough, some of these pictures are actually scratch and sniff. So like you don't need to go far to smell that one. Um, God, I hate when this happens when it gets so squished in like this. This basement height's questionable. I don't know what this is. They built like a concrete bunker of a garage. A couple plates. Guy's been everywhere like Willie Nelson. Multiple listings for that one too. I don't know what's up with that. Different boards maybe. Okay, moving right along. We'll go see what's going on in Cambridge and Kitchener for VTBs. This could be interesting. 550 grand. We've got a set, this side-by-side set of semis, duplex. I don't really understand. Is this how is it a set of semis if it's only a duplex? I don't really understand. Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm an idiot. It's just a duplex. But somehow they must be separately titled or something for them to say that they're semis actually. Because otherwise we could just call it a duplex and get over it. But I don't know. May consider with reasonable terms and conditions. And this is the thing, right? So like what is a reasonable term or a reasonable condition? I don't know. Like, and that's the thing. Like every vendor take back I've done has been different. Oh, this is what I forgot to mention too. In this building that I'm in tonight, like one of the terms, right? So it's interest only. It's 3 years at 5%. And it was like 80% loan to value or something like that. But what he did is he like needed or wanted more security as time went on. And so it's kind of interesting. Like I was able to get the 80% for like right away, which is great because that like saves you cash up front. And then over time, he wanted lump sum principal payments, which I've never seen before, but like you can write whatever the hell you want into these mortgage terms. So all we did is we set up a schedule of 25K, like essentially deposits, right? So like I don't pay principal throughout the year, which is great because then every month there's more positive cash flow coming in, allowing me to continue renovations and live. But there's these 25K principal payments. So it's actually like a really interesting way to do it because it like gave me what I wanted, which was smooth cash flow and smooth like ability to retain more liquidity at the start. And then it gives him the security that he wants and whatever else he's trying to do with that cash. It gives him that ability to do that throughout the 3 years, right? Really interesting way to do it. And that's again the thing, like when it says here, may consider a vendor take back with reasonable terms and conditions. The thing is like the only people who know what a reasonable term and condition is going to be the actual seller and the buyer. They're going to have to actually have a discussion. And I think that's where the real underlying point of this talk is just like you can't know until you've actually had the discussion. But once you do, like it actually can work out really well for everybody in terms of like helping the seller spread out some risk and helping you to buy into a property where you can conserve some of your capital. I just love it. So we'll go back to the map here for just a couple more minutes and just sort of check out some of the other cities real quick. And like, let's see if there's anything in Guelph. And I like doing this just because it gives you an idea like what's going on in the cities. And we do these market updates, right? So we have monthly market updates where we're getting all the stats for each market. And we're sort of like getting a really good understanding now of like how the markets are behaving and how they behave relative to each other, which is fascinating. So this is cool, that something we haven't done on the stream before is like take a search term like this and then go and look at all the different cities and see what's going on there. Um, this is just land, I think. Oh no, this actually is a property. This is terrible to have as the first picture. Holy Dean, figure it out, brother. That is bad. I'm sorry, dude, but that is just bad. Let us know it's a house. What happened to the inside? What's going on here? Attention builders. Residential lot. Sever into two and build up to 4 units per whatever in the gentle density plan. That's cute. The gentle density plan. Great location. Seller may consider a vendor take back. Well, that's fantastic, guys. Look at that. I can't believe that's the first picture. That's so savage. Like, look at it. It just looks like farmland or something. So not much going on in Guelph. What about Toronto? Wow, Toronto condo, right? Okay, extras. VTB available in all caps, right? Boom. Let's go. Let's check out this condo in Toronto. Well, it's got a nice balcony. It's got a Tom Ford book. It's got a gym and a pool and a sauna. Holy shit, I might buy this condo. Where is this? Right? And so again, here's the process. Trust the process, right? You see something that you like, what do? You zoom in, right? You go on the maps, you go figure it out. So we don't want to do that though. Let's check it out. If you see something you like, you click into it, right? Start doing the map study. Come into the map study, figure out where it is, Adelaide and John. I don't know anything about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the closest thing that I know and then make some sort of assessment based off that. Yeah, okay. So like I know Trinity Bellwoods and I know Queen Street. And if you're right at the Arc'teryx store, I know exactly where that is. And then you're right by the Shangri-La. And where I usually stay is a little bit further up here at the Fairmont. But you're right by the Shangri-La. I know this neighborhood quite well, actually. And that's a nice little spot to be. That's a great little spot to be. So cheap and a vendor take back available. How about that? The more you know. Maybe we'll get us a Toronto condo. We can do YouTube shows in there. What do you think, Pete? What else we got here? We got like kind of more of a commercial looking property, which is always fascinating for vendor takebacks. So prime commercial residential investment with high demand next to beach locations, superb shops, highly visible commercial storefront. It's a brown brick, which is also lovely. Sellers open a vendor takeback mortgage, includes sale of Silver Birch laundry business. So if you're looking to launder some cash, I mean, if you're looking to buy a laundromat, you could absolutely look into 935 Kingston Road. If you want to make an offer, I will literally show you how to do the vendor take back. It's so easy. But yeah, I mean, like that's fantastic, right? And that's the other thing too. Like I was saying, like this is applicable on every type of property. Like everything from wow, this is the cutest little apartment. Holy. Everything from tiny houses to commercial properties to large pieces of land. You should be offering this every single time. I never make an offer without asking for one of these. So we looked at Toronto. Let's do one more city and then we'll jump off for the night. I'm sure you guys can hear I've been traveling. I've been traveling a lot. So I'm looking forward to a lot of sleep and recovering some of my brain. Look, I don't know what the next best city is for us. I feel like I'm really disappointed we're not seeing more over here in like Sarnia or Windsor. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It says literally none. I don't know if I believe that. Maybe they call it something different in Sarnia. Okay, so like again, so like this search feature too, like sometimes it just doesn't work as great. So you got to like zoom in and like be intentional. So if you actually were interested in Windsor, like make sure you like zoom into here. Also, by the way, we're looking for a new Windsor sponsor, a new agent to keep us on the loop for the market updates there. And so we're happy to talk if anybody's got ideas there. Whoa, first thing, look at this. First thing you see on the listing description. Seller will finance on approved credit. Never seen that before. OAC on approved credit. That's fascinating. A true 11 unit specific design built A neighborhood in the very rare East End. Interesting. I feel like this is like Chat GPT, like not giving the right result or something and like making all sorts of weird mistakes. Solid concrete steel building, 26 appliances, very solid, low maintenance property. Contact listing broker, read the seller mortgage details. All right. They're looking to do a mortgage. Oh, it is a nice building though. Holy. I love that. Oh, this is a great building. I don't know why I'm so dumb though. I'm like thinking about this. I'm like 11 units. I'm like, what in the so like it's I just you'd have to work pretty hard to get that to cash flow, right? Because like in Sarnia, are you going to be able to actually get 1,800 a unit in rent plus utilities? I don't know. I don't think you would, because like this basically comes out to 182 a unit, and I guess you don't need to get 18 to make it make sense, but like you damn well got to get 15 at least. Maybe it does make sense, but I love it when they're screaming that in the front. And like again, that's a listing we probably wouldn't have looked at tonight if it hadn't been in the filter. What's this? Come take a look at this fiveplex for 1.3. So that's a lot, right? So 1.3 divided by 5, 260K a unit. It's pretty expensive, but it looks nice. I mean, like obviously it's going to be beautiful in here. Yeah, it is. So you got to balance this, right? What are you investing for? Are you investing for cash flow? Are you just trying to park some money? Are you speculating that things are going to go up? Like you got to kind of understand. But the real tool here is that this can get you into bigger deals. Look at this. Boom. Vendor take back available. First thing in the listing. That's so cool. Purpose built 17 unit building. Fantastic location. Almost fully tenanted. And like that's the thing. Like they're saying that as a sell feature. I actually don't want it to be almost fully tenanted if it's like older like this. I want the ability to get new tenants. What's going on here? Why? I don't think I've ever seen the boxes look like that. What is that? I like standing water on the roof. That's good. Some good renos. I mean, just like typical like 2015 renos, but whatever. Looks good to me. Lots of parking. How many units? 17? 7. What's 3,000? Okay, what's so 2,950 divided by 17? 173 unit. I mean, it's honestly not bad. Like, and the renos that were done in that one unit looked actually really good. Okay, last thing, we'll check Chatham, see if anybody's doing deals in Chatham. And if not, that'll be a wrap. Nope. Actually, one more thought. I've never even thought to look over at like Calgary. Is Calgary offering BTBs right now? Calgary? Calgary, are you there? Can you hear me? One, just outside. Oh God, for 9 million. Okay, Calgary is not about the VTB life. It ain't happening. Edmonton, I see you. Edmonton's got to have a vendor take back or two. Here we go. 14 of them. What do we got? Pete, we're moving to Edmonton. People are holding financing out here. Although, looks kind of hard out here for a G. All right, last property, and then we're moving on. But here we go. We've got seller financing is available for this 2 completely separate living spaces, making it a great option to live in or rent out. separate entrances, separate kitchens. It's basically like a little duplex. 500 or 450 seems cheap, right? It looks okay. I hate that. I hate that flooring, but I see what they did. You know, they're going for that look. Guys, moral of the story tonight, ask for VTBs, and they are out there. And I know a lot of people don't think that they're easy to find or that they're maybe a thing of the past or whatever. They're not. Okay. The reason why I started doing them years ago was because the purchase prices were so crazy and the rates were so low that even if you paid double the bank rates, you'd still be well within range if you got a good purchase price to get properties to cash flow. Today, rates are high, prices are high. It's a double header. And so so by asking your sellers to hold some of this paper, all you're doing is giving them the ability to capture the price they're looking for and actually benefit more by getting something out of that interest rate as well. So I think that's really important for you guys to understand is like this is a win-win for you because you get to preserve your capital and they get a better price or a better set of terms, right? And usually we want to pick one of those and then pull on one of those levers. So I hope that this was useful. It sounds like at the very least, Port City, if you're still around, you were able to actually understand how this tool could really help you. And I like that. So like if we can help just one person on the channel every Tuesday, you know, we'd help a lot of people. We'd help 52 people a year. So that's not bad. I'll take that for sure all day. So thank you guys so much. I mentioned it on this stream, but we're doing the market updates every single month, but we still need more markets. Like right now, we're missing a ton of the markets. So if you guys know anybody that we should talk to in terms of who could be a sponsor on the channel and who would want to show their work to the Canadian Real Estate Channel, we would really love to have those discussions because again, I think the more participation we can get on the channel from both you guys and from people that are collaborating with us, the more impact we can have. And that's ultimately what this channel was started for, was to have an impact. So I really appreciate you guys tuning in on this Tuesday with me. I'm sorry I'm a little bit more low energy today than usual, but you know, travel's a real thing. But we're back and we're going to be back here next week as well. So thank you again for tuning in. And I'll catch you there. If you're not subscribed, please go do that right now because that's how you get our market updates. That's how you get all of our new content. Pete and I are actually going to shoot another big batch of content soon as well. So we've got a lot more fun videos and educational content coming up for you. So thanks for sticking around. Cheers.